Gets us to Tovo 1.
So this next amendment would apply the general requirement, would apply the tenant protections to other affordable housing programs. And I think that's in line with a lot of the conversations we've had throughout the last couple of years about making sure that when we have an opportunity to provide additional protections for individuals who are living within rental properties, that we take that opportunity.
Any discussion on this?
I think it was pulled. I guess it was pulled by Mayor Pro Tem Garza.
It was. Staff, you want to explain why it is that you didn't do this?
So the reference in this amendment is to Affordability Unlocked, and most of the time when Affordability Unlocked is used, it will be when people are getting some sort of subsidy from the City of Austin or some other agency, where there will be more ability for that agency to be involved in that. In these density bonus programs, it will be much harder for market rate developers to provide tenant protections and still be willing to participate in the program. So I think it's a balance.
So the concern was an unintended impact that would actually end up with fewer affordable units.
Potentially.
Okay, thank you. Further discussion?
From me. Just to be clear, this was recommended by Housing Works, and again, I think we have an opportunity here to provide some protections for individuals, and the fact of the matter is that in just about all of the cases, unless they're getting equivalent zoning, many of these cases are upzonings from much lower density levels, who will now be able to access more units on a piece of property by participating with a fee. And so I think it's appropriate that we apply that we use this opportunity. They're getting a large increase in the value of their property through a rezoning. I think it's important that we return some of that benefit to the community, and especially to the individuals who would come to rent those properties.
Thank you. Those in favor of Tovo 1, please raise your hand. Kitchen, Tovo, pool, and Tovo. Kitchen, altar, pool, and Tovo. Those opposed? It's the Harper Madison, Renteria, Flanagan, me, and Ellis. Mayor Pro Tem abstains. It does not pass.
Mayor?
Yes.
I think this is
Casar's off the dais.
I'm sorry?
Casar's off the dais.
Casar's off the dais.
So what does that make?
If you can get to 6, you can try and bring it back.
I need to understand a little better the opposition. We're talking about tenant protections.
Yeah. I guess since Councilmember Casar has been involved with various resolutions for tenant protections, I would ask that we wait till we have a full dais again. And also, I really need to step off the dais for a couple minutes. And I know my amendments are coming up next, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. And I don't know if there's an opportunity to go on, but I'll reintroduce my amendments when I come back.
I'm happy to wait for Greg. I feel like this is
our rules allow us to bring things back, so you can do that. On any one of these, you can bring back if you think that the...
No, I just wanted to explain. There was a question asked, explain. And I feel like this is the theme of the difficulty of many of these votes is that every single one of us wants tenant protections, but when we hear that applying something in a certain way would in effect create less affordable units, that's the challenge that I think is almost every single vote we're taking here, is that we all want tenant protections and families to stay here and all of that stuff. It's just disagreements on how we get there. And so that I abstain because I absolutely want tenant protections in every single development and everywhere. But if it in fact turns into less affordable units, that's concerning.
Okay, and that's exactly the rationale for me. Every one of these is a balance, and I think that in affordability and locked and putting in those protections with what were pretty significant incentives for someone to take advantage of that program, I think that it works, and I would be concerned about losing affordability in this instance. We don't have Councilmember Tovo here, so we can't retake the vote, so let's bring this one back up later.
Mayor, I had a question.
Okay.
Or just a comment. The thing about it is, if we don't tell developers or builders that we want the tenant protections in place, which is what this does, apply to all programs, amend the general requirements to require an applicant to provide tenant protections like those found in Section 23, et cetera. If we don't tell them up front that this is what we expect, then they won't plan to do it. And if we signal that we don't want these to apply, and we say it's because we anticipate that providing these protections would impact affordability, what is that message that's being sent? The message being sent is that the developer or the applicant can say, well, you know what, it'll increase the cost of that rental if you tell me that I need to have some tenant protections. I think our role as a governmental entity is to instill these kinds of values and ethics into the process, saying we expect tenant protections. We expect to have well-maintained properties. We object to nuisance properties. And this is our way of giving people who may not otherwise have the ability to advocate for themselves. The city is standing behind them and saying, we support you to have a good, clean place to live, that the water runs, that it's potable, that the electricity isn't intermittent, and that you have all the standards. You can expect all the standards that the rest of us do.
Can we have everybody on the dais now?
I'm just a little bit concerned that if we vote this down, we are the signal we're sending is that all you have to do is say it's impacting our bottom line, and then we don't need to do it. And I think that's entirely counter to what we've been trying to do for the last 5 years.
Councilmember Renteria.
Yes, Mayor. We voted on this, and it lost. And are we going to continue discussing this issue once they should know? The losing side should know that they lost. And we should continue with our other amendments that our work that we need to get done. And, this is just delaying this whole process, and I'm just do not agree with that.
Okay, I'm going to call revote on here on Tovo 1 now that the dais is full. Those in favor of Tovo 1, please.
I have a question.
Okay.
I appreciate Councilmember Renteria's point, and I'll do this very quickly. And I would just like to add that no one's trying to delay things here. We're just trying to understand. So please repeat for me, because I'm really trying to understand why we're concerned that extending these tenant protections, why the staff's concerned about extending these tenant protections.
Mayor, we have a motion to reconsider. Is the debate not limited to the motion to reconsider?
I'm going to let the staff respond to this, but then I'm going to call the vote.
So we have heard concern even from affordable housing developers that the tenant protections as written can provide challenges when tenants may become violent or in other circumstances. And so this just raises the challenge of being able to provide rental units in all developments throughout the city. So we absolutely support tenant protections. It will just be a greater challenge to participation in the program.
Okay, let's take the vote. Those in favor
I
of Tovo.
have one follow-up question.
Okay.
So from a staff perspective, do you see a route to have further conversations about extending tenant protections while addressing some of those concerns that have been raised? So can we have that conversation between now and third reading?
I don't know that there will be time for that. There have been conversations, even with the affordable housing providers, about the current tenant protections. I imagine those conversations will continue over time.
Okay.
But I don't know that there would be time between second reading and third reading, because we'd really need to engage a much broader audience.
Okay. All right, I'm going to continue to support this because I think on balance, we need to protect tenants. And if we back off of protections because of concerns about whether builders will actually take advantage of things, I mean, that to me, that's like telling people we can't raise your wages because it's gonna cost the business more.
I only wish we had calibrated things better in Rainy Street so that we had more families planted there now in affordable units. We missed that calibration. We missed that opportunity. That's unfortunate. We can't go back and fix that, but we can try to calibrate as best we can going forward. Councilmember Kassar.
I would support these sorts of tenant rules as a citywide law. But the issue is right now when we are trying to give dollars to affordable housing nonprofits, some of these tenant protections are not even fitting in that case. And so having it be part of this program, I think, gets us less tenant protections because those tenants won't be protected by it because they don't take advantage of a thing. Because right now people are worried about taking advantage of that thing if we give them dollars. These tenant protections, I think, are really important. I want the legislature change their laws so that we can make that just a blanket law so that people don't have a choice. And the issues brought up by Councilmember Poole about dilapidated conditions or not working electricity are the law in the city for every single tenant regardless of this. And so I'm going to keep working in those stakeholder groups to try to get these tenant protections to work. But if we currently aren't getting them fully to work and buy-in from our affordable housing developers when they're getting money, then I think that this is I think we have to keep working on this. That's why I'll vote no and keep working on the issue.
Those in favor of Tovo 1, please raise your hand. Kitchen, Alter, Poole, and Tovo. Those opposed, please raise your hand. To the balance of the dais, Tovo 1 does not pass. Gets us to Tovo 14.